That's pretty good after 38 times. I guess it's 38 times.
16,
okay,
but
16.
you know, all the outtakes,
Fair enough.
there's probably 30.
How are you, Mr. Walker?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Thanks for joining us.
It's nice to be here.
Yes.
Nice to be here.
Yes.
So what are we talking about today?
So today, as you all know out there, we are a IT staffing and recruiting firm, and we a lot of our clients are hiring managers, and so we generate some content that they're interested in. And one of the hot topics of the time is interviewing, right? So
That's right.
I thought we'd quiz Mr. Markham on how we interview well, how we go about doing that. So
yeah, that is a loaded question, and I think there's been about 400 books that have been written about it. So I'll try to bring this into a short little synopsis.
Yeah.
So I as a hiring manager, I know the struggles. It's first a time management struggle. Our hiring managers, our IT application managers, directors, they're really paid to deliver projects. They're paid to be technologists. They're paid to understand architectural and project management. And so their day is filled full of that kind of stuff. And some of them may be very good at the interview and hiring. Some may not be very good. But the reality is they want that to be only 5% of their job, because they have all the fun work that they signed up for. But what they didn't sign up for was sitting through dozens and dozens of interviews for a particular job. And them, from an education standpoint, if you think about it, when you go to college and a master's degree, when you're in IT and other programs, you're not going through the process of becoming a master interviewer. That is what you do second. And so my first challenge to every single IT manager is you have to grow that skill set in your quiver, or else you're going to be stuck making bad hires over and over and over again.
Right.
And so that's my first piece of advice is don't see it as a necessary evil, because if you take it on as a true sport and you learn it and you become an expert in it, you can then delegate yourself and elevate yourself out of the stress of delivering the projects. But you have to put that kind of emphasis on it compared to all the other work that you have to get done in your deliverables. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Excel at that part. Don't just tick the box.
That's right. And then one thing that we have here is we have developed a process, a hiring process, because what we have found is that when you're interviewing and screening candidates, the number one problem that hiring managers have is there's not enough time and too many not real candidates that don't fit. So they have to go through all these pipelines, the top end of the funnel stuff. So if you have a good partner, a good vendor, a good consulting firm, they should help you diminish that top end of the funnel. But if you don't have the trust in them, you want that top end of the funnel because you want to see and feel and touch those resumes and those candidates. So I would say that my first objective when you build your own kind of standard operating procedure around hiring is find a company or a firm that can help you reduce the noise up top, or you learn how to reduce the noise. So for instance, I didn't want to pay a recruiter $100,000, $150,000 a year to go out on the job boards and look at resumes all day long or look in LinkedIn all day long. I want that expensive senior recruiter refining those candidates down. So we have a tiered system. We have folks in our organization. So if you lean on your internal human resource department, if you have folks that are underneath you that are aspiring to be you someday, ask them to help go through the candidates. Take some of that top end of the funnel stuff off work. And the other thing that we did, which Mike's a big fan of, is using technology to help you through that top end of the funnel.
Sure.
Michael, what's some of the things that you've seen at the top end of the funnel that helps narrow down the choices in a successful way?
Well, I think for me, from a technology and from a process standpoint, even getting staffing and job application out of the mix, just from a principle of generating leads standpoint. One of the things as a marketer, and as a social media manager. One of the things is, limiting the amount of questions that you ask is always going to give you a larger degree of activity. You're going to get more responses. But on the flip side, the more you ask, the higher quality responses you're going to get. So I think that applies here in what we've done to attract talent to our internal team. We have come up with kind of a happy medium, a mix of questions that are relevant and make sense for the type of people that we're looking to attract. We're not having them fill out like an 8-page mortgage application where we're asking everything about their background, because then we would get no responses.
Yeah.
But we're asking for more than just a name and an email address as well. So yeah, we're going to limit some of our responses by doing that, but not to the point where we don't get any.
Yeah. They say this, I know you hear this, but your network is the jobs that you have on your team. Are you reposting those jobs on your LinkedIn profile as an IT hiring manager on a regular basis? And if you're not willing to use agencies, put there, no agencies, please. And make sure you're networking yourself out there. The other thing that we've done is you can look into technology tools, engage with your human resource department. There's folks in there that I know can help you. And on the staffing side, and even on the perm side, if that's not there, then leverage the talent that is out there on the consulting services agency side of the business. You mentioned about questions and asking. What we found was, and this is just a very admitting thing, is we're really good at helping our clients find people. And I'm taking a turn on this podcast, but for our clients, but we struggled with internal hires. We didn't put the same time and energy and effort with our own hires. So this question thing that Michael's talking about, what we realized is we'd send someone through 3 or 4 interviews, but what we found is the person would ask the same exact questions. So why did you leave here? So why did you go there? What's your greatest strengths? What's your greatest weaknesses? What skill sets did you work on in this position? So then I would leave. Michael would walk in. He'd ask the same exact questions. Well, guess what? We had triplicate of the same amount of data. So we built a standard operating procedure. I know that's not a great word, but we built a SOP around hiring. And so we know first round interviews are going to ask this set of questions. Second round of interviews are going to ask this set of questions. So that way, by the time we get down to, say, 2 or 3 interviews, we have not triplicate, but 3 times the amount of data to make a good decision on that candidate. And that's critical. So that's one. The other thing I'll jump to real quick, and because I want to be conscientious of time here, is don't hire for skill set, hire for aptitude first. Utilize third-party emotional intelligence tools, personality tests. Hire for people that have the ability to learn fast. They may not have every X, Y, and Z. And yes, if you're hiring a consultant, they have to come in knowing all 4 of these things right away, or else they're no good. Well, you'll be months hiring that person. So you want to save months of delaying on a project, or they know 2 of the 4, but they have the aptitude to learn the other 2. Those are the ones that stick with you for a long time. And those are the ones that just get it. And you know what I mean by that. Like, people are like, what do you mean? If someone walks in, you're like, yeah, that person gets it. I get it. That one's a hire. Yeah. Those are the ones. And that can only come through volume. So I would say 1, don't hire for skill, hire for aptitude. 2, use a structured interview hiring process. 3, find some sort of top end of the funnel tool or process that will help you with the noise. And 4, I think I'm on 4, is become a master of the trade of hiring and interviewing. You learn those 4 things, I promise you, you will raise your game and increase the quality of your hires over the next 6 months to a year. So that's
absolutely.
That's just off the cuff. I've got hours and hours I can talk about this stuff because it's been in my brain for 30 years. But yeah, that's it.
Well, since we're on the topic of interviewing, how about the actual interview? What are some methods that you have used or had success with to really kind of get to the core of why that particular candidate is going to be the right fit. Is it a battery of go-to questions? Is it asking the things that you know that they haven't prepared for? Is there a way that you evaluate talent when you're sitting across either the table or a Teams, call that really helps you zero in on the right person?
Those are all great questions. I think so. If you see it in rounds or scaling, I call the first session kind of matching. And so we have folks that are kind of newer into the business now that we give them a set of matching questions, matching skill sets. Those are, hey, do you want to work in this area of the country? Hey, the compensation range is this level. And B, C, do you have this and this skill set? Just the general matching. Those things will reduce the volume of candidates tremendously. And weeding out the fake garbage and so forth. And then once you get through that piece, then you go through what I call biographical interview, where you have a structured process of asking questions about the past 7, 10, 15 years of their career. So you get a roadmap of, the exact. This is the only interview that we have that's really about why did you leave here? Why did you go there? What skill sets did you work? Tell me a little bit about your project. You get through that. That's the meat of an interview, about an hour and a half of an interview through that. And then the final interview, in my opinion, is around the emotional intelligence and the aptitude to learn and situational type interviewing. This is usually the most senior recruiter, delivery lead type person that we put in our process. And that person really is just trying to see if the skill sets match the emotional and aptitude intelligence. And so those are questions like, and I know you can ask these greatest strengths and weaknesses questions, but I love the what I call the threat of the reference. So I love when you're talking to somebody and you say, and they've already been through 3 rounds of interviews, and you're like, so when we go to talk to your manager at XYZ company that you had worked there from 2008 to 2014, what would that manager, when we go to check that reference, what would that manager say would be an area that you excel in? And then they're like, oh man, this guy's actually going to call the reference. Uh-oh, I can't really lie. And they may come back and say, hey, I haven't left that company yet, so you can't check that reference, which is, of course, we're not. But if it's an older job, I expect a hiring manager's name. Right. And the people who skip over that, who don't have the guts to actually check who's your manager at XYZ company, you are not willing to pull the covers back and see that person for who they are.
Right.
And so this structured interview process that we go through to hiring, I can tell you, we did this at the beginning of the year because it was a tough 2023 for hires. 2024, we made this change, and we've only brought in, I think, 3 people this year, but they have been rock stars because we've put them through this process. And now we're like, okay, how do we expose this to our clients? Well, it's educating our hiring managers to get through this systematic process. That way they can spend more time on their projects and deadlines and technology and architecture and developing their current people, but they have a standard system process of bringing people in. That could be through full-time employees through their HR department, could be full-time employees through some sort of agency, or it could be consultants through a consulting house like Golden Technology.
Right.
And so if we can build that process for them, we can see the B's and C players getting weeded out and finding the real A player. So that's the interview process. I mean, we can go in and spend hours and hours on questions and questions and
Sure.
questions. But anybody interested in learning more about raising their game of their interview process, if you're a hiring manager, I'm more than happy, not turning the clock on, not a consulting gig, coming out to you and like literally just saying, hey, show me your process. And I can tell you, I'll apply my 30 years and all this gray hair at your process, and try to get you improved, because I know how time consuming it is, and it's time consuming to hire, but it's even more time consuming to fire
and rehire. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we've been doing here at Golden.
Perfect. Well, hey, yeah, that's some good insights. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure that's of value out there to those watching. So it's a good place to segue on to the next topic for next week, when you'll join us again, same time, same channel. So we're going to let it go at that, but I want to just say thank you again for joining us. And you have been watching Empowering Empathy, where we talk about the power of compassion, personal growth, and professional success. And we'll see you next time. So
All right.
We're getting out of here. See y'all.
See you.